from the Daily Mail. Check this out. San Francisco Whole Foods made more than 560 emergency calls over 13 months after rampant drug use in the restrooms, people defecating on the floor, and violence towards staff, and theft of all 250 shopping baskets were stolen. All of them.
That's impressive.
Yo, who lives in this place?
So it's interesting because not me, of course not. Well, I know that in California, right, if it's under $1,000 worth of merchandise, you can't call the police to be arrested. Yep. But this is Whole Foods, so if someone steals a celery stick, you can call the police. That's why they made all these reports.
I mean, San Francisco is where the Targets are locking everything up. It's where all the Walgreens and CVS's are closing. This is not, it's exactly what you're talking about in Portland. This is not a sustainable city for businesses. And when the businesses leave, everything else will collapse along with it.
Well, ideologues want this because they believe they're going to be able to create something new from the ashes of what they're actively working to destroy. Ideologues also aren't capable of seeing flaws in their worldview when they manifest themselves in the real world oftentimes. But it's so disheartening how your average person is struggling to see some of this. I mean, just your average liberal. How can you vote for the party that turns Chicago into Chicago, that turns New York into New York, that turns San Francisco into what San Francisco is, that has kept Detroit like Detroit? How could you vote for that? What do you want America to be more like? Do you want America to be more like Texas, like Florida, like all of the places people are leaving your states to go to?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want America to be more like the states that this party has ruined?
I mean, do you feel like the youngest generation, or maybe, whatever generation is old enough to run for mayors of cities, are producing another Rudy Giuliani, so to speak, like someone who is willing to address the challenges? Or do we feel like we have lost the era of a conservative mayor in a major metropolitan area?
Look, it's possible for there to be some kind of political backlash in those areas. I could see it happening, but who knows? They might be too far gone.
I'm kind of excited. Because it's just like...
You know why, Tim?
He's like,
Civil War.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about these people voted for it. They got exactly what they wanted, and I'm happy for them. I'm like, this is fantastic. We now get to see what happens under Democrat policy, and then let the experiment play out. And you know what? Maybe this is the molting phase, and all of these policies result in a utopia.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Or it all just literally burns to the ground because Antifa's firebombing these buildings, and we've left a long time ago.
See, I think the division has reached such a point, like, right versus left ideologically wise, is it doesn't matter what policies are pushed through for the left or how many cities get burned down, how many businesses shut down, how bad the economy is. They're going to keep voting the same way because it's us versus them. They're the racists, they're this, they're that. And the us versus them politics has just reached a point. It's like the Harry Sisson kid, right? That's been going viral recently that the right's kind of been elevating. Is like
that shill.
He literally does not care and doesn't really know what the effect policies has. He knows that it's not good and that Republican policies are better, but he doesn't care.
No, I don't think he knows anything. I think he just knows that it's making him famous.
Yeah. Well, he's making him money, too.
He's getting paid.
Well, also, you have to consider that people who vote Democrat are notoriously low information voters. It's not to say you don't have any people who have a lot of information who vote Democrat, and it's not to say you don't have any people who are low information and vote Republican, but Democrats know that the more low information people vote, the better off their political party is going to be, which is why you always see these get out and vote ad campaigns where they have some celebrity who's almost always a Democrat stand in front of a camera and tell television audiences that they need to go fulfill their civic duty and vote. Now, why would you want people who only vote because a celebrity tells them to vote? Because you need people who have no idea what they're talking about out there voting, no idea what they're voting on. Everyone wants to talk all day long about your civic duty to participate in the electoral process. No one ever talks about the civic duty to know about the issues that you're voting on. Why is it better to have people who haven't researched any of this in voting booths? How on earth could you make that argument unless you were doing so cynically because you know that those people will vote for your political party because low information people always do?
I think it's the most discouraging thing ever to understand that these kinds of people that are very low information and just vote because they see a celebrity on TV and it tells them to do it, or they need to uphold democracy, their vote matters just as much as yours.
Yep.
So that's very just like, it's blackpilling. I try to be as white pilled as possible. It's like most people in this country should not be able to vote. There should be simple, requirements, at least a litmus test of, hey, do you actually know how politics works? Do you know what policy is?
And it can be as simple as like, how many members of Congress are there?
it doesn't need
How
to be
many senators
complicated,
are there?
but most people don't know this.
Or what do you think about the issue that you're voting on? What do you like about this candidate or dislike about this other candidate? Do you have any idea what this is? You know, or do you
Or
just
how
like the
engaged in
letter
your-
next to their
your
name?
community or society are you? I mean, that's one of the things that gets me. People who are like, I'm gonna vote for this person, even though I don't care what happens to everyone else. Like if you hate America and you're participating in our government system just because you want to see it fall apart, that's chaotic evil. The other thing I was going to say is it's celebrities, but also Next Gen America that I think Bloomberg started it. It's a nonprofit. They had a whole thing where they reached out to people on dating apps and they were like, hey, are you going to the polls? Like, you should do this. And they marketed it as a get out the vote campaign for everybody. But obviously, it's a completely
That
progressive
is so
organization.
manipulative.
Yeah. And like, the thing is, conservatives wouldn't do that. It is effective. It apparently does
Absolutely.
generate some voters.
You should only be allowed to vote if you know the 15th president was.
Everyone in the room is.
I think you should only be able to vote if you have some kind of state. By the way, I would eliminate myself from this, right? I think that you have to, I would say either own property or have children or something like that.
Yeah, married men own property.
Yeah, I think it's
I think the
wild
family
that
vote
people
is
who
more
have
effective too.
No, I hear you. That's my point. And again, that would eliminate me.
think
But
you have
I
to have
don't
some-
understand why a person who doesn't have any tangible stake in the future in that way would be able to vote. I would also say clergy. I guess people who are making some real legitimate
Yeah,
sacrifice for society.
And I've talked to people who say like, well, what if you didn't, military members, and then you can't, like, maybe you're not owning land, but you are contributing, or like people who do kind of AmeriCorps type volunteer work. Like there are ways that we could measure whether how you're basically your civic engagement in this country. But I do think that we have a whole generation of people who feel intense apathy and anger towards everything about America. And therefore, when they vote, they don't cast their vote thinking about what the longevity for themselves, their children, their neighbors is. They think about, well, what can serve me best for right now? Because basically I think this ship is going down and I don't really care.
Well,
They should ask questions like, before you can vote, answer one question about U.S. civics. How many presidents are there? And then when they're
I feel like most people wouldn't even know.
Right. They'd be
You've
like,
seen the street videos where they ask them
Exactly.
the
like
most
how many
basic
presidents
questions.
are there
You wanna
right now? They're
Yeah.
like,
3? 7.
I saw one the other day,
7.
that exact question, and they're like, 58 presidents. It's like, what?
That's what you see these men on the street. All that does is there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be like, what do you mean? You're like, no, that's fine. You go vote. Don't worry about it. And the people who don't know, it's like, you probably should not be voting. You can, there's a cookie. Go over there.
I don't know how
Or,
somebody.
that's an idea. You get a table with free cookies. And when someone comes up and say, you can vote right now, or free cookie.
If you
And that
eat
would
this
eliminate
cookie,
it.
you can't vote. Yeah, you bribe them against voting.
Well, it's just like
if
what they
someone's
did
willing
with
to
the
accept that
vaccine.
bribe, yeah,
They shouldn't be voting.
shouldn't be voting.
If they don't know if they would rather eat a cookie than vote, they probably shouldn't vote.
It's like the opposite, like the inverse of what they did with the vaccines is like, oh, hey, you get a free, Big Whopper and a cookie if you get this vaccine.
Remember that video of what's his face?
de Blasio.
Eating fries.
It was De
right?
Blasio
Yeah.
eating the French fries. Like,
I don't know. Like he also, I don't know how to put this, but he ate them weirdly. I was like, I've never
Incorrect.
seen. Yeah, I've like never seen someone eat French fries incorrectly.
like he was
and
an
somehow
alien. It was his
did.
first time eating
Yeah,
them.
and you're like, wow, there's French fries are good. You're like, all right,
Never
so
had them
we're
before.
really
How many takes of that
incentivizing
video?
healthy living.
Yeah, how many
No, but
takes
back-
of that
back to,
video do you think they needed?
Well, back to the old Starship Troopers there. Well, I was talking with Vivek Ramaswamy about it, and the idea was kind of like, when you sign up for selective service, man or woman, you both have to do it. As soon as you do, you get your voter card. And if you don't sign up, you don't have to. Nobody's forced to do it, but you don't get your voter card unless you do.
There has to be some kind of metric for this. I mean, look, I don't know. You can make arguments from consequence. You can make the argument
that's it right there. How many women would be like, I ain't signed up for the draft? And you'd be like, well, then you don't vote. How many men would be like, I ain't signed up for the draft? Well, then you don't vote.
men actually do have to sign up for the draft.
So the point he was making
I
was,
get what you're saying.
men and women both have to sign up if they want to vote, but you don't have to sign up.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
I think if you can make arguments from consequence for democracy to varying, effectiveness, but I have yet to hear a convincing argument that everyone's opinion is equally worth taking into consideration when it comes to how our government is run. No one's been able to make an argument for that makes any amount of sense other than it's mean not to. It would be really mean.
It's our
really
right.
mean to
Well,
not.
you don't want bad thing, do you, Seamus?
I don't want bad thing. I,
mean-
want
Bad
good
thing.
thing.
I mean,
You want
right
good thing.
now,
You want bad thing? He want bad thing.
That's the Democratic policy
That's
position,
literally
yes.
it. Is you want bad thing. It's okay. So you're telling me that someone who has contributed massively, has spent their life sacrificing, has built things, has brought life into the world, has many children, all of the things that a healthy society should value, has just as much of a say in how our government is run as someone who has contributed absolutely nothing. And I'm not even saying someone who hasn't contributed anything because they've lived badly. I'm even talking about teenagers. An 18-year-old? Why should an 18-year-old be able to vote? What does an 18-year-old know?
Nothing. Literally
Nothing. Nothing. And there are people who want to push the voting age to 16.
They
It's
used to know
the
things.
They used to know things, but even back then, back when they knew things, the voting age was 21. It got pushed back to 18. And that was back when 18-year-olds had been living on their own for 2 years or taking care of themselves as adults for at least 2 years. And even then we said, you're not able to vote. You just don't know enough. And now you're dependent upon your parents until your early to mid 20s, and we let 18-year-olds vote. It's insane.
Well, have you ever
Yeah,
seen...
we're going backwards on that front.
Exactly. And people are going, I think 16-year-olds should be able to vote. Are you out of your mind?
Have you
But
ever-
you know why.
Have you ever
Because
met
they
a
need low
16-year-old?
information voters.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.